Most small businesses are running full speed every day, reacting to problems instead of planning for progress. The result is a fragmented marketing effort that never feels connected or strategic. In this episode, we talk about the power of pausing, taking a single day to slow down, get organized, and build a clear marketing roadmap can completely change how your business grows. We'll break down how to step back from the daily chaos, identify what's really driving results, and bring your scattered ideas together into one focused plan. You'll see how pausing for clarity leads to smarter execution, stronger messaging, and less stress in every part of your marketing. If you've been stuck in reactive mode, this episode will show you why the most productive move you can make this week might be to stop and think. This is episode 85, The Power of the Marketing Pause. I'm Jim Diedlow, co-host here on the campus of Purdue Northwest in Hammond, Indiana. And we have the guru of local digital marketing, Matt Hansen, professor. Hi.
Hello. Good to be back. Good to have another week of podcasts and diving into this. This one is one of my favorites in the fact that I don't think we pause enough. And I've been a little bit under the weather this week, dealing with some things, and it's slowed me down, and it's allowed me to kind of look at some things. And I've been talking with your staff as well about slowing down and kind of looking at, what is the messaging? What are you doing? And I don't think we do it enough. And, it's one of the things that I used to do with my classes all the time. We would work on campaigns, and we had kind of some tips and tricks of how we would slow things down, get organized. I think strategic planning is not something that we necessarily stop and pause to think about because we're always reacting, right? We're always reacting to that next fire. You put one out, you go back to your email, there's another 10 waiting for you. And that's what we want to talk about today is like, how do we let's pause for a second and go forward.
I think I took 2 of your classes in getting my MBA. If you guys follow this podcast, that's how it started. I went for my MBA at P&W, and we started getting together. Remember when I did my final from the Purdue NCAA tournament? I was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I had to do a verbal final from a bar.
You weren't in the bar. You were in the alley.
And then I had to go out in the alley because these guys were getting too loud, and one of the other games was on. But it's ironic in that I took your 2 classes, and I don't ever remember us slowing down. I felt like I had work all the time.
Well, that's good. I mean, we only have so many weeks to get all of that in. So,
here we are talking about a marketing pause, and I'm like, I don't remember that.
It was after the class.
Yeah, okay,
it was after. You had that break.
How do Post-it notes and a Sharpie work into this?
So one of the tools that we used to use, or I still use to this day, a lot of people like whiteboards. The way that I like to do is I take a bunch of different pads of Post-it notes, and I will start to map out on a wall in my house what needs to be done, right? Like you have all these things that you're thinking about on a regular basis, all these marketing initiatives that you want to do. I want to build a CRM. I want to send out more emails. I want to, hire somebody that can do XYZ. I want to make sure that we post 3 times every single week on social, whatever it may be, right? There's all these different things, but you don't actually sit there and start to think, well, what is the content that I'm going to push out there? What is the process of how we're going to do it? Do we really need to hire people for this, or is there a vendor that we can go out there and do? So by taking these Post-it notes, you put all of these wants and needs on the wall, and you go, okay, I'm going to start to dissect this, right? So if it's I want to send out email more often. Okay, that's an end goal, but what is that end goal? So, okay, I want to send out 3 emails every single week. Okay, well, how do I get to that end game from the start? Like, how do I start today? And, the Post-it notes, and I take a Sharpie and I write it because it's permanent, right? It's like, I'm going to write a permanent on this Sharpie, and if I don't like it, I just throw the Post-it note away, and I start again. A lot of people will use a whiteboard, but I feel like the Post-it notes, when you pull them off and you set them aside, you look at it and you're like, maybe we pull that right back in, right? Maybe that can go over here. So it's an ability to kind of like remember where you've been, but not necessarily keep it. But you need to stand back and look at the wall that you're creating to really understand what's going on. And I know this is a very archaic way of doing it with Post-it notes. And there's actually a website that I use now called Mural, and you can build Post-it notes and flows and all this other stuff. But still the same idea. But if you don't ever just stand back and look at it and go, all right, what are we trying to accomplish? Big picture. And then what's our end goals? What are our wants or needs? And then work backward. And how does it all flow and tie together? It's so much easier to get a big picture view when you're doing something with Post-it notes and Sharpies and putting it on a wall versus trying to do it on a little piece of paper, an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that you're drawing on and doing different things. I mean, it gets lost. I mean, even a whiteboard. I have the largest whiteboard I can possibly get in my office. People, they walk by like, how'd you get that? It's still not big enough, right? I've got some flows on it right now of some different things that I'm working on, and it's still not big enough for what I need. So that's why I say find something, and they have smaller Post-it notes if you want, like the itty bitty ones you can put on the wall and to save space. But like I feel like that is an underutilized way to kind of look at the big picture view, to take a pause, leave it on the wall, continue to look at it over and over, and start to move things as you go.
So you write what on the Post-it notes?
Okay. So what are some of the goals that you're looking to do here at the Sports Network?
Turn from a building an organization to monetizing an organization.
Okay. So you're trying to monetize, which means you're selling advertising space, right? And so you have end goals of X revenue that you've put out there. And you're saying, okay, well, if my goal is this, I need to bring in, let's say, 50 customers over the next year. How do we get those 50 customers? Let's work backward, right? So we currently have, maybe you have 25 customers and you need another 25. What are we currently doing that's driving that? So we look back and we start looking at your media kit. Is there a standardized media kit? Is there a standardized contract? Is there a standardized outreach that your staff is doing? Are there emails that are going out? Are there referrals that you can possibly be leaning on? Like all of these different things, you start to look at them and you go, okay, well, what's the low-hanging fruit? And you start, obviously I know you've got a CRM already here and you've got all of these contacts in there, and you start to go through that CRM and you go, all right, what's hot and what's cold? And, I know I had a conversation with your staff last week and I said, okay, let's take the CRM. Let's start to understand who is currently advertising and who is currently not. And they're like, well, how do you do that? And I said, number one way that I would do is we can look this up right now. I said, give me a name. Gave me a name. We went to Facebook. I clicked Facebook, their name, the page transparency, are they advertising? And I could pull up their ads right there. And I'm like, this client is advertising right now. This client is not advertising right now. So you have hot and you have cold, right? And it was literally like, okay, let's build a hot list and let's build a cold list. You need to get 25 extra advertisers. Let's look at that hot list. Okay, so we put that on the board, or the Post-it notes out on the wall, and we say, all right, here's your 25 that you're going after. What kind of advertising are they doing, right? So start to put circles around them and understand where they're at. And then go, okay, what kind of budgets do you believe they're at? Right? So you start to literally learn about each and every one of these individuals, and you understand that those 25 are your next targets, and you should know everything about them going in. So you can go out there and target 200 different customers and have a vague idea of what they're looking for. Or you can actually have 25 that you know for sure are doing things, you have some data on them. You can build a really hot lead, hot media kit, hot sales force that's going after these individuals. And that's what I mean, just literally putting your thoughts on a wall and stepping back, right? And the other thing too is, I think every company is too close to their brand, too close to their selling, right? So, what you think is unique to you or that you think the marketing needs to be, have you asked others out there? Does this resonate, right? So, for example, I was messing around with some things and current messaging was A, changed it to B, and then I floated it out there to the first person that I could think of, right? In the space, said, thoughts on this? And they're like, sign me up. I go, why? Well, because of that. Okay, well, what if I said A and it doesn't resonate? Don't care. Okay. Right? Those are things that you...
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, I'm trying not to give too many examples because I don't want to give away, all the back end stuff of what's going on. But the idea is literally put your thoughts, stop, put your thoughts on a wall or put your thoughts in some kind of system that you can look at every single day. Take a pause and schedule time to work on this, right? Because what happens? If I open up my email right now, I guarantee you there's 50 emails in there from this morning that people want answers on. Are they a fire? No. Is there a few fires in there? I'm sure there are, right? But everything can't be a fire. So from your perspective, when you get an email in regard to the radio, the podcast network, the sports network, whatever it may be, you get an email screaming at you about something. You may take that because you run the show, right? But from a marketing perspective, somebody needs to step back and go, all right, let's get everybody on the same line, same projection of where they're heading, right? So if you're out there promoting something and Peter's out there promoting something and Sam's out there promoting something else and they're all different, nobody knows what the message is.
So we'll get into that specifically for this business, I think, in the next podcast. But one of the things that I guess in general, I guess about society and social media, but also about marketing and even working is pace. Mm-hmm. And I have said as a morning host for a long time that I thought that the pace of life was what was causing a lot of problems. And, people listen to my show and then they're like, dude, you move so slow and you let people talk. And I go, hey, listen, I'm not doing anything that they didn't do in 1980 or 1930 here, but that's a pace. Mm-hmm. So what you're asking people to do is something that is fairly foreign in the American work life, or actually the global work life right now, because it is almost as if you have so much stuff coming at you and that you have to continue to churn. There has to be a way from a marketing perspective that you're able to disengage from that and do this and look at your Post-it notes on a easel. What could you tell the small and medium-sized business person or marketing person in those firms how to do that?
I think the biggest thing that people need to realize is that if you're just churning, you're just rinse and repeating kind of your every single day, nothing is ever going to change, right? You may continue to grow, you're on a projection, whatever, but nothing is ever going to drastically change, right? So, I came to you late last year and I said, hey, let's start a podcast. Okay, we're now in episode 85. How has that changed things for you and I over the last year? It's changed a lot of different things that, like we've gotten to know each other better and all this other stuff, right? But most small and medium businesses they just react constantly. And I see this too where my students are going out into the workforce and the number one request that they're getting is we want strategic thinkers. Now, if I give you 15 minutes, and I just came back from my fellowship, and I love the fellowship that we're in, and they're great, but one of the flaws that we have with it is they try to do things by number. Like, we're going to give you 15 minutes to write this, and we're going to give you 30 minutes to do this, and I can't do it that way. I need time to sit. I need quiet space. I need to absorb everything. I need to look at it and go, okay, I'm going to go draft 1. I'm going to change this. I'm going to go draft 2, 3, whatever it may be. And maybe 3 hours down the line, I'll have what you're asking for that you wanted in 15 minutes. And it will be good. Or I can just give you a 15-minute version that's going to be garbage, and we're going to move on. And really, no one's ever going to look back at it because it's garbage. So have you ever just done a deep dive into a problem to solve it? Because everything in small and medium-sized businesses, we have tons of problems, and many of them go on forever because we never sit down to literally solve them.
So when you're looking at the premise for this podcast, mastering local marketing tells it right there. And we've talked, I've had so many people tell us about geofencing, that they really like that one. Or we did a podcast where we showed all the different percentages of what actually works. And it's so crazy that after all these years, it's still email that kind of is the highest percentage. I mean, all of those are specific things, and you can kind of get lost in them. What I'm looking for, I think personally, as a business person who is involved in putting out the fires basically for the last 5 years directly straight, and right now kind of stepping back and looking at, all right, well, where are we and where we're going? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And every person, I think we have 100 businesses that advertise through us in one way or another. Every one of them that I know that is run or executive director or CEO or whatever it is, they're all the same way. It seems like everybody's always putting out fires. You never see one of these people in charge, kind of like you, my legs are crossed, I'm taking a moment, I'm going to figure this out. It just doesn't happen. And
why, though? Because you put more priority in those fires than you do actually taking your business beyond. You get any kind of email, you get any kind of phone call, you could push that down to somebody else and say, here, go handle that, right? So I manage a couple different things at the university, and my number one thing when I go in and I start talking to the people that work for these different departments is literally, how can I help you? What are the struggles that you're having? What can I take off your plate? I'm not telling them what they need to go do. I'm literally saying, what are you struggling with? And do I have a tool? Do I have an idea? Do I have a history in that? Or is this something that I can take on myself to solve for you, right? So what we're saying from a marketing perspective here is the fact that people aren't willing to stop and take a day, minimum a day over a month, right? And
nobody. I have never done that. And I could tell you that out of the 100 people that come through here that run some sort of organization, I can't, if I brought that up with someone, they'd be like, well, I really need to do that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. They come in here, we'll probably have 3 or 4 tomorrow. And then since I'm not doing the morning show, I can talk to people that come in and go out. And a lot of times they're business leaders, bankers, whatever it might be, politicians, whatever. If I brought this up, I'm just curious, out of 10 people, how many are going to say, well, I regularly take a break to look at things from a larger perspective.
Right. Well, that's why I brought it up today.
Okay, so
here, let me just say, I have done this with multiple, businesses. I've done this with agencies. I've done this with businesses. I've even done this at Purdue, where we've gone away for 2 days and just sat in a room and worked together, right? This works. And what I'm saying is you don't need to go take a day, right? If it's 30 minutes, you have your coffee in the morning. You can't literally use a wall in your house to plan out some things for 30 minutes every morning, some quiet time where you're just having coffee and thinking things through. You come back to it the next day, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes.
Next day, and next day, and next day.
Yep.
So what you're talking about is creating a marketing habit that is actually anti-productivity almost. It's you're talking about creating a habit.
So how you say anti-productivity, but you're being productive in the fact that you're piecing together the productivity into a day over a time. How many times today are you going to sit and have a conversation for 30 minutes with somebody that it's just a conversation. It's a catch-up conversation. Maybe you mention one or two things. I'm sure you do this all the time. Could you have taken that 30 minutes and put it into how I'm going to, better my company, my marketing, all of those different things, or solve those problems that have been sitting there for countless years that we just haven't gotten to? And that's what I'm saying is, like, some people just, they won't do it. I don't have time. Okay, then you don't value the marketing that you're doing.
What is your view on? I know the answer to this. It's like when my wife's the lawyer. Every time she asks me a question, I go, "You already know the answer."
The rhetorical questions.
Yeah, but I know you talk about 21 days to make a habit. Explain.
Yep. Yeah, so we joke that New Year's is coming up, right? So we're in October right now, so we're getting towards the holidays, and then we hit New Year's, and everybody's always, I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat better, I'm going to do all that. And really, you can pretty much do anything, right? So today, again, kind of dealing with some health issues, Jim's like, I'll just do one podcast. You don't have to come in. I show up this morning, I'm like, let's do two, right? And he's just like, you don't have to do this. It's a habit at this point, right? So we've done this for 43 weeks at this point, and I don't even think twice about it anymore. So on Wednesday night, I sit down, I'm like, all right, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? I ship it over to you. You get the ideas, what we're going to talk about. I come in on Thursday, we record. It's a habit. I don't even think about it. It's like brushing my teeth in the morning at this point, right? But if I were to say to somebody, go start a podcast and do 2 episodes a week, and by the 3rd or 4th week, that's why everybody falls off. They haven't formed the habit. So if you're not willing to sit down and think about your marketing, you're never going to generate a habit to think about it, and it's just going to sit there, and you're going to continue to struggle. So we put effort into things that we find valuable, but it takes time to see what's going to happen, right? So when we were 3 weeks into the podcast, we had, a handful of people that were listening to us at that point. And if I could have said, oh, it's not working,
You kind of did at one point. You're like, oh my gosh, we're not,
Yeah, but
we
we
studied
learned.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. But, the trend has been going up, right? So it's not about that anymore. Now it's about having conversations with you and myself, and I've become a better marketer by sharing all of this stuff. I mean, we were talking about we're a little late getting out the last 2 episodes, and that's a little on me as well. But
wait a second, the producer's back there. She's got 2 jobs. She coaches
Exactly.
cheerleading.
I get it.
And she is hiding right now behind the screen doing her homework because she's got several classes.
But
I'm
not blaming
I have
it.
4 jobs. I don't know what you mean 2. I have 4.
I've never met a 21-year-old person that works this hard, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good.
Need to, you know what? We need to talk about your habits.
My habits, it's procrastination until the very last minute.
All right, I like it.
The worst part is she's taking my class, so now we'll see how the habits are.
So
I'll be fine there. I'll be fine there.
We will get the last couple episodes up, and it'll probably drop like 4 at a time here.
We're gonna drop 2 today, and then every other day continue on with that.
So to sum this up, we've gotten off of specific tactics for this episode. All that stuff that you've built up in 85 episodes, you might want to think about this, you might want to think about that, you might want to think about this. You're saying, all right, we did a lot. Let's just stop for a second, and let's look at it. Let's look at where your marketing is. What is it? Where are your problems? And can you take a breath? And that has to be part of the marketing process. Am I reading that correct?
Yes. So people will come to you, and like you said earlier, they'll talk to you about, oh, I love the geofence episode. But is that is that something that can help you is the question. The conversion rate metrics that we shared, that paid social, paid search, and email are the best for conversion rates. Are you selling something online that you're trying to convert? Is that relevant to you, right? So last night I was sitting in a meeting, and it's an incubator-ish kind of thing with some new startups. And
in Valpo?
No, it's with us
over
over in the sales lab there. But the idea, there are some people in there that are building a social media company, right? So they'll do your social media and all this stuff, and they do a really good job. One of the instructors does all the social channels for the local high school that she's at. Great. They see extreme value in that they're elevating their brand and they're highlighting and showcasing all of this stuff. From my perspective, I don't do a lot of own social type things because mine is all about conversions and building an audience and getting real results right away. So again, I've stepped back and said, I'm not going to put all of this time and effort into this own social side of things. I'm not saying there's no benefit in it. I'm just saying that the people that I'm working with want instant results. And if I'm doing something like own social or SEO, they're not going to see it right away. So everybody has their own unique place in the world, and you have your own unique needs, so you have to understand what works best for you. So when you stand back and you go, all right, I don't want to be like everybody else. What are my goals, and what's the shortest path to get there? When you look at that every single day on a wall or something else, like it starts to be part of who you are, and you're always thinking about it. So we've been on this podcast for 85 episodes. I will hear things, and I'm like, that would make a great discussion on the podcast. So it's constantly in my mind, like, we need to talk more about this. We need to talk more about this, right? And there's certain topics that I want to talk about in the future that I have to go out and do some more research on because I don't do, right? Like, I think Pinterest is amazing to me, but Pinterest is like 80+% women, and I'm not on Pinterest, and I don't necessarily have any clients doing Pinterest, but I want to dive into it. I want to like really understand it from somebody that is utilizing it. So if if we've got a listener out there that's really doing a great job, would love to talk to them. Just, it's just not my thing. But because we do this, because we've created a habit every single week, it's always on my fake wall in front of me, and I'm always putting Post-it notes like, I want to talk about this, I want to do this, I want to do this. So, again, we haven't been doing this for a year, but I want to continue to do it. I think it's interesting. I think it's valuable. I think we're bringing real substance to you, but you're also helping me, and I think it's opened up a bunch of different doors and ideas and things I never would have thought about a year ago.
All right, so to follow the process of this podcast, to apply it to the small and medium-sized business, you thought about it a long time, because I brought it up to you a year before we started. And then we would see each other and we'd kind of talk about it, and we had different business, and you did your show here and all that. We'd see each other and, hey man, whenever you're ready. And you thought about it, and I forgot about it for 6 months. I go, I'm not bugging him anymore. And then all of a sudden you show up at the door, let's go. So you've thought about this.
Yeah.
And then you've taken it from ruminating and kind of figuring out where it needs to go, or where you want to start, at least. You don't have to have a fully formed idea of every structural part of it, but you got an idea. Well, I kind of want to get to 100 podcasts and see where it happens, right? And then you established a habit. Like today, I tried to get you to stay home because of this, minor health thing. And you're like, no, we're doing it because it's a habit. Yeah. So there's your lesson for today.
Yeah. Honestly, when you do something over and over and over again, even if you just spend 30 minutes a week looking at where, needs and wants, where we want to be, what our marketing is looking like, put it up on a board somewhere, and you spend 30 minutes a week, it's a habit that you look at. Just put it in your phone. It's a reminder. For the next 30 minutes, I have to do this. I have to drop everything. And after a while, you'll start to enjoy it. And it won't be, again, I still haven't gotten the habit of hitting the gym every day, but, or, eating everything that's good for me. But, there are certain things like, I used to eat a lot of candy and cookies and things like that, and I made it a habit that every time it comes out now, I say no, and now it's not hard to do. I know it sounds horrible, but create habits and create your marketing habit, because even if it's just 30 minutes a week, at least you're thinking about it.
Create your marketing habit. That might be another way of looking at this one. Hey, a little bit of housekeeping. Please go to Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can listen to 85 podcasts there, and usually they're more specific things. This is kind of a more general episode. Also, I write a Substack, Jed in the Midwest. Just go there and like it, please, and you'll get an email every time I write one. And also, you can go to YouTube on WJOB 1230, and you can watch it and see what we look like. We kind of wear the same thing all the time, and are former college baseball players, and that's just what we look like. So there's no real surprise here, except I'm quite a bit older. Thank you, Matt, for this podcast. Thanks a lot to Adriana Alvarez. Until next time, we'll see you later.